Hi Dance Magazine readers, welcome back to Dance Magazine's YouTube channel. My name is Haley Hilton and this is the Begin Again vlog, where I have been chronicling my return to the dance industry after 9 years off with a chronic health condition. Today we are talking about rest and the importance of taking a break. Now, if you're like me, you probably feel resistant to the idea of taking time off. I've always felt nervous, particularly now as I'm returning to the industry and, want to feel strong and healthy all the time. I've been nervous that taking any time off is not pushing me towards my goals and is not improving my training. But I spoke with New York-based mental health counselor Liv Massey. If you saw my last vlog, you met her there, and if you haven't seen it, I recommend going back and watching. She has great thoughts and perspectives just on, how to enhance your performance generally. Liz shared some ideas about why it's important to rest and how we can get the most out of the time in which we're resting. And go check out the interview, and after I will demonstrate how I use rest in my own life on vacation, and hopefully it gives you guys some ideas about what you can do to take advantage of your time off so it benefits your career as a whole. Hi, Dance Magazine readers. I am back here with Liv Massey. She is going to share some expertise with us today on how to take advantage of rest time and how to do it in a way that doesn't make you freak out emotionally, but also really benefits your body. So to get started, right now, a lot of you have either finished your Nutcracker runs or you actually just finished like a winter break. And there's a lot of complex feelings about how much time we should be taking off and what that means for our dancing, what's okay, what's not okay. So can you tell us what are the benefits of taking time off from your craft and why is it important?
Yeah. This is not what all performers like to talk about, right? I'll caveat that first. Most people listening are very, hardworking, very diligent, very routine performers, right? So anything that's kind of taking a break or changing that routine in some way can feel very threatening and scary. So just know that that's okay if you're feeling that way. But, this is one of the most important pieces of sustained performance is being able to understand the benefits of rest and when to take it and how to do it. So essentially what we see a lot of times, and we meaning performance coaches, therapists even, is we see dancers that come to us that have far beyond burned out already, right? They're in a really bad state. They're very unhappy, right? And they're thinking of maybe not even returning to dance because of the mental anguish that they're going through. It's very painful, right? My hope is that by learning more about rest and when to take it, you don't get to that point, right? And so what we talk about often is this term burnout. Have you heard this term, Haley, in your own life as a dancer?
Yes,
Yeah.
I have heard it, and I feel like most of us have probably experienced shades of it at one time or
Sure. Oh
another.
yeah, certainly. Right. It's basically a response to chronic stress over time. Right. And what that is you essentially stop enjoying the thing that you love the most in the world. It seems like impossible that could ever happen, but it does. Right. And that's once you kind of get really into burnout, it's really hard to come back, right? You can, but it's really difficult to. So we don't want to see any high level performer spend their whole life doing something they love and all of a sudden get to the top of their career and hate it, right? That's not what we want for anybody.
Yes, that is such a good point.
Yeah. Yeah, and unfortunately it happens, right? So some of those top dancers you see, not many, but it happens that they're actually not enjoying themselves out there and they've worked their whole lives to be there. So there's a different way. There's a better way, right? And I think that's the hopeful point here. So what we do is we talk to dancers and performers about creating what we call a burnout prevention plan. And really it's exactly what it sounds like, right? But it's including all these elements of rest, like how you bring that in a tactful way and in an intentional way, right? That helps you to keep burnout away from you, right? You might feel shades of it, like you said, right? But to keep it at bay, right? If you do nothing and you just push and push and push and grind and you're kind of hurt, but it doesn't matter, you push through all the time, it's not going to be pleasant, right? And you're going to start to get that chronic stress associated with dance. And that's where, burnout ends up being the result.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah. That is
Yeah.
so crucial. If you don't want to
Yes.
burn out, you need to take time to rest.
Right.
And that sounds like a very much, I guess it's like a whole body thing, like a mental, emotional, physical
Yeah.
thing that burnout affects. And so if you want to like have longevity in your career,
Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
just need to take time to rest. And I feel like that's hard, especially when someone's really young, to have that kind of foresight to look ahead. Cause as you said, you're like, well, I love this and I want to get strong. And if I'm going to accomplish my dreams, then I can't let a day go off. I remember I had a dance teacher tell me that a day off in dance was like a week off in any other sport. And
Yeah.
because I'm like, oh my gosh, if I'm not here for one day, then I'm going to get just terrible. I'm going to not be good. I'm never going to reach my goals. And like you kind of fall apart. And so you
Right.
put yourself probably beyond what you should at a certain
Oh,
time.
absolutely. And everyone listening right now can relate to what you just said and has pushed themselves when they don't want to, or they maybe feel like it's not right to, right? We've all done this as performers. I think it's just important to, if you talk to, for instance, your point about having a young dancer versus a really, pro dancer that's been in the field for a long time. If you talk to those pros that have, been principal dancers for 20 years, they'll tell you the importance of rest because they've learned it over time, right? They understand it in a different way than someone who's young and trying to make it. Right. It is a different mentality, but I think if you're young, it's still important to learn it, right? Because it's all about insight into your body, right? Part of this is like gaining the skill of listening to your body and not just pushing forward anyway.
Yes.
Right? Because there's some instances where you're sore and you're exhausted and it's okay to push forward, right? That's kind of part of the rigor of doing this. But there's also times where that's not the right choice. Right.
How do you know when it's the right choice, when it's not? When is it time to take a break? How long should those breaks be? Is there kind of an equation to that? Or is it something that like you need an expert to guide you through? Like, what are your thoughts?
I mean, I always say I like having experts and coaches and just like trusted, dancers or, dance teachers or anything like that is helpful to run these ideas by, of course, if you feel like you don't want to make the decision in isolation. But essentially, like, there's a difference between intentionality of taking a break and giving in, right? Those are two very different circumstances. So intentionality is the saying like, okay, I've been at it for, 6 months pretty rigorously with no breaks and my body's breaking down a little bit, right? Like I have shin splints or I have, whatever you would know a lot more about what's going on in the dancer body, but those things that come with time, right? Like those sort of wear and tear injury or pre-injury type feelings, right? And also like the mental fog, the mental fatigue. Like I don't feel as sharp when I'm out there or I'm in autopilot a lot, right? Like I don't get as excited or jazzed up to get on stage as I used to maybe 6 months ago or 4 months ago or whatever it was, right? Those are things to pay attention to. And then saying, I'm intentionally going to take this week off or these 3 days off or this afternoon off. It doesn't matter, right? But to say, I'm going to take that time, I'm going to put boundaries around it, right? So you're making the decision ahead of time. You're not giving in, which we're going to talk about in a second. But you're putting boundaries around it. You're saying for this amount of time, I am going to try to unplug from dancing in a mental way, an emotional way, and a physical way. Right? And the point about having boundaries is there's an end date to that rest, right? There's a time that you've committed to say, I'm going to go back, right? And I'm going to put my dance hat back on and do what I do. But while I'm resting, I'm not also multitasking and dancing or thinking about dancing or worrying about not dancing, right? That's a really important piece of this.
That's the one, because I can't tell you how many times I'm like, okay, I'm going to rest. And then I'm like, oh, no, I'm resting.
Exactly, right? Because you're not resting then, right? I think that's the reality is you're trying to rest is probably how you would define that, right? You're certainly trying to make the effort to rest your body, but mentally you're not resting. And therefore you're not really taking a break.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And there's not that like trust that you'll be able to come back and be okay at the end of the rest time.
Right.
it's more like fear-based.
Yes. Yes.
So interesting. I want to maybe dive into a real life example. Oh, wait, you were saying that second thing I cut you off about.
Oh, the giving in is the other side of it. Yeah. So that's just what you want to try not to do, is the giving in, which is just saying like, I'm tired today and I, don't feel great today. So I'm not going to do the thing today. And what that is it's just giving into an emotion of the moment, right? It's not a planned break. And those two things are very different mentally. Giving in gives yourself the message that I can't do it anymore, right? I'm giving up in some way. This was too hard. I'm too tired. It gives this message that like you have a limit that you don't actually have. Whereas when you intentionally do it, you're thinking about it ahead of time. You're not giving into an emotional state. You're saying, this is my plan and I'm going to stick to my plan, not give in to the feeling. Does that make sense?
Okay, yeah, interesting. So you plan for rest instead of being like, okay, I go to class every morning, but today I woke up, I'm just so tired, like I just can't do it. So I'm just not going to class. Instead, it's like, okay, for the last few months, I've been going pretty hard. I think I could probably use a break. So from this day to this day, I'm going to take these days off.
Exactly. Yep. So you can plan that for like the end of your Nutcracker season, right? To say, okay, at the end of that, when that season ends, I'm going to take 5 days off and I'm planning on that. And I'm looking forward to that. And I have a plan for that time. And at the end of the 5 days, I come back. Yes. Right. It's much more like you're in control rather than your emotions and your feelings of the moment are in control.
Okay. Yes, that definitely makes sense. Okay, cool. So let's take a real life example of this. Oh, wait, I was going to ask you, because we talked about there's like these mental and emotional, and then it sounds like the physical is that you're less likely to get injured. Are there any other like performance benefits? Like if you take time off, like your dancing improves?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, let's hear that. What is
it? Physically, it makes sense, right? If you're having all these wear and tear injuries, those are likely to only get worse if you push it, right? We know this, like somewhere in our brain, we all know this. We have a lot of coping skills to try to ignore that fact, but it's true, right? A lot of overuse injuries require rest, and that is kind of their only, besides ice and some PT maybe, but like, right, the real benefit is rest, and there's a reason for that. Like your body is trying to tell you something, right? So I think that's an important thing to pay attention to as well. And what I often ask my dancers, or I have them ask themselves, is what's the risk if I don't rest, right? Because I don't want to. That's not my instinct is to not rest, right? But what's the risk you run if you don't? And I think it's really important to ask yourself that question, because we just have the blinders on and go forward. But there really is a risk.
Is there any kind of an equation where it's like roughly dancers should take off this much time in a year or anything like that? Or is it really just individual?
Oh, yeah. I wish it was like that black and white. This is where listening to your body is such a skill to develop, because it's different for everybody, right? Everybody's body, like, and mind responds differently to the stress of what they're doing. Probably even the company you work for or the place you dance at is going to change the environment in which like burnout is possible or not, right? So I think being able to just really listen to all those factors and take stock in yourself and where you're at. And, if you're at 70% burnout and you're kind of encroaching on 80% burnout, it's probably time to make a plan, right? And that can be someone can rest, like someone can take those little mini breaks like 5 or 6 times a year. Some people might only take it once a year. It just totally depends on the person. But the skill here is really being able to listen to yourself and figure out what it is that you need to continue forward for a long time.
I'm about to go on a 2-week winter break where I'll be leaving the city and going to my hometown. But in my head, it's like, oh no, you go for these 2 weeks and then you come back and then like your rotation is not as held and your muscles are weak and you have to fight back to get back to that. So how do I take this time? Can you help me plan it? Can we show an example of this? Like, okay, for 2 weeks, should I take the 2 weeks off completely? Should I do just a little bit? Do you not do any physical activity? Do you only do something? Like how do we approach this?
What's your instinct?
This is like a time that's good for me socially and emotionally. And if I take all of that time to spend time with family and I'm in class, like that also feels like a little bit of a bummer. And so I feel like I want maybe something in between. So it feels like I'm maintaining, but I'm also not consumed by it during this time that's supposed to be rest and rejuvenation.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. It makes sense that you would have a touch point to dance throughout your time off, right? In whatever way feels doable. And then when you're not in class, also being really present, right? That's where the rest is going to come in as being actual rest and not what we talked about before, where you're sort of still thinking about maybe what should I be doing, right?
Okay,
Being
yeah.
able to like be present with your family or with whatever activity it is that you're doing or any of that. So this is where sort of mindfulness comes in and being able to be present and noticing what's around you and balancing out that human side of you, not the dancer side of you. It's in your body, right? If there's anything that hurts right now, right? Pay attention to it. Give it some love while you're taking your rest, right? Maybe take like a great Epsom salt bath while you're home or something like that that's very self-care based. And that's not doing nothing, right? That's doing something really important.
Okay, I love that. Taking that instead of being like this guilt of like, oh no, I'm being lazy, and being like, no, this is something that's important for me to do. But thank you so much, Liv. This has been so great chatting with you. I seriously think that everyone should talk to someone like you. You're just the best. Thank you so much.
You're the best too. Thanks. This was fun.
All right. It's day 1 of intentional rest and recovery week. So I'm in Utah right now. We are gonna go up the canyon to a spa. It's like a spa at Snowbird. It's a ski resort. Anyway, we're gonna go there and we're gonna do a yoga class, and then we're gonna go to the pool and the hot tub and the spa amenities, and I think it'll be really fun, very restful, exactly what I'm looking for. Childhood bedroom on this vacation. I guess it's technically day 3, but it feels like day 2 of vacation. I was out, I like stopped documenting last night because I was just having fun with my girlfriends, which I think is part of the whole point of, you know, resting and relaxing and not thinking about work. And it was lovely. We went and got delicious Vietnamese food, went back and did a favorite things gift exchange, caught up on old times. It was exactly the recharge I needed. Grateful for old friends. And today I'm going to meet up right now with my college best friend, getting breakfast and seeing her little perfect baby and husband. And yeah, it's another restful day of doing things that bring me joy intentionally. I planned this out. I'm a big planner. So I am going to Pilates with my mom. It's perfect because it's a great way to spend time with my mom, activity to do. That's later, and then I'm gonna get my nails done.
Hi, Dance Mag readers. This is my mom, Lori. She's the best. We're gonna go take a Pilates class today because even though I'm resting and recovering, I made intentional choices, like the psychologist said, to do something that brings me joy that is also some physical activity. It'll be great. It's gonna be so fun. Here we go.
Now I am off to get my nails done, which is a bit of a luxury, I will admit, but it's so expensive in New York and it's so cheap here in Utah, so I'm taking advantage of it while I'm here. And oh my gosh, my feet, I really use it, and my calves to get a little bit of massage. I'm doing mani-pedi. It'll be great. I'm here with my mom getting my hair done. She's a hairstylist. She's the best. It's one of the ways I rest and recover during time off. All right, all done. So fresh and fabulous. On to the next activity. I'm gonna do a Turn It Out with Tyler class. gosh, it's so loud in here probably, but for the next section of my rest and recovery week, we are going up to my cabin in Oakley, Utah. We're gonna sled and snowmobile.
Gonna go snowmobiling.
Thank you so much for watching this video. If you made it this far, I really love you and I really appreciate your interest in my journey, and I hope that my story can somehow help the next person in line as they're figuring out their path towards their career, whether it's coming back later in life or just starting. I'm grateful for the opportunity to speak to experts and share that with you. So yeah, come back next month to see what I'm up to. Mwah!